When you hear the name Alexander the Great, what comes to mind? For me, it's these epic images of massive battles, a sprawling empire, and just this unbelievable ambition. But the most insane part of his whole story isn't just what he did. It's how ridiculously fast he did it. Take a look at this number, 13. Just 13. What do you think that represents? 13 years. That's how long he reigned as king. That's it. In a little over a decade, this one man created one of the biggest empires the ancient world had ever seen. He was like a shooting star that burned impossibly bright. So today, let's trace that fiery path and see how he did it. So how do you even become a world conqueror before you're 33? Well, it helps when your training starts, well, pretty much at birth. Let's dig into how a young prince was forged into Alexander the Great. Alexander's upbringing was, it was something else. His dad, King Philip II, was an absolute military genius. But Philip didn't just want a warrior, he wanted a leader. So he hired the greatest mind of the era, the philosopher Aristotle, to be his son's personal tutor. Can you imagine that? One day you're learning military strategy, the next you're debating deep philosophy. It's that mix of brute force and brain power that really unlocks who he became. And this quote, which they say is from him, just perfectly sums it up. His father gave him the kingdom, the power to conquer. But Aristotle, he gave him a way to see the world, a curiosity that meant he didn't just want to take lands, he wanted to understand them. All right, so with Greece pretty much united behind him, Alexander set his sights on his father's ultimate goal, taking down the biggest superpower on the planet, the massive Persian Empire. And the way he went about it was just breathtakingly audacious. This is the big question, right? The Persian Empire was enormous, incredibly wealthy, and could field armies that made his Xerxes look like a scouting party. So how in the world did he pull it off? It wasn't luck. It was all about the strategy. It really boiled down to a three-part playbook. First, speed. Pure, relentless speed. He moved his armies so fast his enemies were constantly caught off guard. Second, tactics. He perfected this thing called the hammer and anvil. His infantry, the phalanx, would act as the anvil, pinning the enemy down. Then his elite cavalry would slam into them like a hammer. And third, and this is crucial, leadership. Alexander was not a general who sat in a tent. He was at the front, leading the charge, and that inspired a level of loyalty in his men that was just off the charts. And if you want to see this strategy in action, look no further than the Battle of Gaugamela. The odds were ridiculous. The Persians had way more troops, they had these terrifying scythe chariots, even war elephants. But Alexander used his speed, found a tiny gap in the Persian line, and personally led a cavalry charge right for their king, Darius. The moment Darius fled, the Persian army just crumbled. In one battle, the empire was basically his. And the pace was just unbelievable. In 334 BCE, he crosses into Asia. A year later, bam, he beats Darius at Issus. The year after that, he pulls off this incredible engineering miracle to capture the island city of Tyre. And by 331, after Gaugamela, it's all over. It took him just 3 years to bring a global superpower to its knees. You'd think conquering Persia would be enough, right? Settle down, enjoy the spoils. Nope, not for Alexander. For him, the edge of the map was just an invitation, and his ambition was about to push him and his army to the absolute breaking point. So instead of hitting the brakes, he just keeps going. He marches east into the incredibly harsh terrain of what's now Afghanistan, fighting this brutal guerrilla war. And from there, he sets his sights on a place that was basically the stuff of legend, India. And in India, he ran face first into his toughest fight ever. At the Battle of the Hydaspes, he faced an army led by King Porus, who brought out a terrifying new weapon, war elephants. The Macedonians had never seen anything like it. Alexander's genius pulled out the win, but it was an absolutely brutal, bloody victory that almost shattered his army's morale. And this right here, this is the breaking point. Even after that nightmare battle, Alexander wanted to push further, to the great Ganges River. But his men, they were done. Exhausted, thousands of miles from home, and terrified of fighting more elephants, they basically mutinied. For the first and only time, Alexander's ambition hit a wall he couldn't get past. His own soldiers. He had no choice but to turn back. Okay, so we've seen Alexander the Conqueror, but what about Alexander the Ruler? To really get his legacy, you have to look beyond the battles and at what he tried to build. And this is what's so fascinating. Alexander wasn't just trying to dominate, he was trying to create something new. He married Roxana, a princess from Central Asia. He pushed his own soldiers to marry local women. He started adopting Persian customs, which, by the way, made his own Greek generals furious. He called it a policy of fusion, this grand idea to blend Greek and Eastern cultures. On a personal level, his rock was his general, Hephaestion, a friend so close he was often called Alexander's other self. So he returns to Babylon, the new heart of his global empire, and he's already planning his next moves. But the man who had never lost a battle was about to meet an enemy he stood no chance against. And just like that, at the absolute height of his power, it was over. After a long party, he came down with a fever, and within 2 weeks, he was gone. The conqueror of the world died just before his 33rd birthday. And here's the crazy part. To this day, nobody knows for sure what killed him. The theories are all over the place. Was it a disease like typhoid or malaria? Was he poisoned by a rival? Was it something related to his famously heavy drinking? The truth is, his death is one of history's greatest cold cases. After he died, his physical empire pretty much exploded into pieces. But his cultural legacy, that was built to last. It has a name: Hellenism. Because of him, Greek became the common language across the Middle East. Greek ideas about art, science, and philosophy spread everywhere, mixing with local cultures to create this whole new, vibrant civilization that would shape the world for centuries. His impact was just massive. He founded dozens of cities, many named Alexandria, of course, that became hubs of knowledge. His battle tactics were studied by everyone from Julius Caesar to Napoleon. But maybe the biggest thing he did was build a bridge between East and West, opening up pathways for trade and ideas that literally changed the course of history. So in the end, the empire he built with the sword didn't last, but the world he created through ideas did. He was a brilliant general, a visionary ruler, a ruthless conqueror, and a flawed human being. He blazed across the world for 13 short years, and we're still living in the afterglow. It leaves you with a big question. How should we remember him? As a unifier or as a destroyer? The truth is, he was probably both.